As we start the design process, it's a good idea to just go backwards a little bit and think about what design means in general, and how design is important to us as a problem-solving tool, but also we would like you to start being able to recognize design principles as you walk around the streets, wherever you're living. So a general theory about what is good design is a good sort of basis to start with. Now, I am not going to claim to be at the design college, etc., but these are some of the most important things that we can really think about, and that's symmetry and line, texture, angles, minimizing waste as much as we can, trying to get some circular economy into this, into our designs, trying to look for combinations, and often combinations can really make design interesting and new. We can make old things look new. Curves are always great to get into a design, but they will make it complex, so you've got to be prepared for that complexity. Balance and symmetry, as I said earlier, very, very important. And also another really important principle that people often forget, even professional architects and designers forget. The solid base or a foundation is really important, especially in buildings and fences and things, and I'll show you some examples of that. So a really good place to start to talk about general design principles is actually in the trade of tiling. Tiling is a very important thing. It's age old. It's all over the world. In Hong Kong, we love to tile our buildings even, and it can make a really big impression. And I just want to talk about the patterns. There's lots of decisions that have to occur with tiling, and they really reflect the designing principles in general. You have to think about patterns and corners and grout and lines and joining points, where the colour will be used, how it will be used, what texture is needed, what is practical, what is not practical, line and symmetry, angle and curve. It's all very, very important. So I thought I'd start off by showing you this bathroom here, and I've left the toilet in so you can see the size and proportion here. These tiles have got lovely texture and lines, and the way that they have been put together. They don't have to match, and it still looks great. And they're quite large tiles there that have been used on the walls. And the thing I really want to point out is in this second slide here, where we get to see this sort of circular economy a little bit. As you come into the corner of a shower, for instance, you'll have to have a thinner tile to actually be able to match it into that corner. And then what they've done here is they've got all these offcuts, very small tiles, that have been cut in there. Now they would have all been the waste, the offcuts from the large tiles. So instead of just throwing things away, often in design we can use this principle of actually sort of making it a feature, making the mistake a feature, or making the thing that is seemingly the disadvantage, turn it into a feature in your design, and it will be a really impressive section here. If you look at these here, and then the other decision that has been made is that there's no grout between these tiles. They've all been just placed in very tightly and very neatly, and so the way you put things together really does make a difference. Once again, with tiling, you've got this herringbone patterns, you've got all sorts of decisions that you can make. I took this picture here for you, not particularly because of the colour scheme. In fact, it sort of screams out at me a little bit like this is not good. But it's very practical, and you see they've made this decision on the corner to cut a 45. Instead of just bringing it through and squaring it off, it doesn't look as good as if you had cut it off at 45. You can see the corner here where they've been a little bit lazier, and they've just come straight through and then started here and gone straight off again. So these are all decisions that you have to make all the time when you're designing. Another driveway here, and you can see the tiles have been laid on the 45. Okay, so just simple things can make a big difference with a board around the edge. Here we've got little tiles mixed in with big tiles, and good use of colour and texture, which makes it both practical and aesthetic. Now, I've been lazy with this slideshow, and I haven't actually spent any time laying out these photos well, and you can tell that. This video is less aesthetically pleasing, and I lose some credibility as a designer by showing you these pictures in this way, because really, design is just like a mood board, and the skills that you get from constructing a mood board are really, really important. Those skills of line, symmetry, texture, colour, matching, all those things, which I'm not showing in this video. But I will talk to you here about, just reliefs. Like, so we've got this little indent in this post here. So all of a sudden, we start to see some really nice things. We've got a ledge that comes over the edge. And these posts were made deliberately so that they were fatter than you would have otherwise made them. And if you don't make them fatter, then they don't look like they have a strong base, and they look too skinny then. And so it's really important, is what I'm talking to you about, this foundation idea. You have to actually build off something. And if you look at aesthetically pleasing buildings, like the Bank of China in Hong Kong, for instance, you'll see that it has a large, solid base. Here you've got a staircase, nice curves, reverse curves, okay, really complex here, but it does add to the feature, and look to get little things into your design that add, like niches and stuff like that. So, and the front of this house is also important, because you've got an interesting collection, a combination of things here. You've got curves, you've got square holes being put in, so it just makes the design a little bit more interesting. So as you travel around, I want you to take notice of things and start to include them in your design. When you do a similar product investigation, you don't need to do a similar product of the actual product that you're making, because you might include principles. So this is a lovely curve here, just on the back of the railway station at Hung Hom. And you can see that even the holes that are put in here, they're in order to save some material, they're not needed. You can use that material for something else. The bolts have been made a feature of. So once again, this idea of something that was negative, it can actually be highlighted and turned into something quite beautiful. Curves, you'll probably start to see that I like curves. Curves are magnificent and they really add to things, but there's a level of complication even in here that's really, really tough. And you can see this extra piece that's been put through the front here, and it's got bracing pieces back again, and that's in order to sort of hold this all up if there's high winds. Symmetry and the principles of symmetry, very, very important. Doesn't really matter what the design is. I'm not sure I like that or not. I sort of do. But it's beautiful because of the fact that it's a little bit complex, but it's symmetrical. So you need to look for these things. And on this last one here, you know, some people might think this is a very boxy building, but the use of color, of texture, this concrete with this sort of blue steel look on the outside with holes for the verandas and square windows with glass, and because of the amount of texture change and the way that the boxes have been used, this is, in my opinion, a beautiful, which once again has this nice strong base feeling about it. Okay, so I hope you can see that using these general principles can really make a difference in your design, and we can also look to minimize waste as well, which is something that the designer should always be trying to do, make the function the most important thing, but if we can make it aesthetically pleasing as well, then we've solved two problems. Thank you.